Good evening, good night, and probably good morning, everyone, at this point. Sorry for the late update. It's just because we had way too long live stream session. So I'm gonna really do very quick one. And especially there is not really much going on the front lines. It's just big reshuffling of the troops going on. And unfortunately, Ukraine is kind of behind on that reshuffling, in our opinion. We're still seeing some of the brigades here in the Chernihiv region, especially like 58th. We're not seeing them being moved actively to Donbass front lines, where they are very much needed. At the same time, we're seeing Russian troops being actively moved to Izyum area. Not so much in the other areas. They still, like, we see the same units operating there. To be fair, it's really hard for Russian side right now to have more troops, as we've discussed before. All of this West group is probably not in battle ready condition and not going to be there for a while. And they can use some of the units from here piecemeal, but it's also hard for them to create a significant group. So let's just do as always. We start from the north, from the Kharkiv region, and I just want to make it clear to everyone: Ukraine at this point fully controls, has been. Russian troops has left all of this northern Ukraine. There's no Russian troops there. It's under control of Ukraine fully, including the border lines and the border guards and all that stuff. So, so the war there is over. And there's a rebuilding effort. It's super slow. It's not very well organized, and so on. But that's happening. Let's start here with Kharkiv. So Kharkiv, not even really just positional fighting. Not really much going. Not even fighting. It's really just shelling with artillery. Where the fighting is happening is really Izyum. Let's have a look at this. As we discussed before, Russian troops. The Russian hammer is breaking bigger and bigger hole in Ukrainian defenses. And in our opinion, there's no way Ukraine can, with the way it is, to hold this hammer here. The only way is actually to cut off handle of the hammer so that metal piece kind of falls apart. That's the only way. And that is going to be daring attack. It's hard to accomplish. We don't really think at this one that through Chuguyiv that it's possible at this point, simply because Russian troops standing right there, you're going to be just front attack and extremely high casualties. So the only way is probably do it here from Zmiev, and you may not even be able to reach Kupiansk, but that's not even totally necessary. What is necessary to cut the supply lines somewhere here and create credible threat so the Russians will start in panic, pulling troops back here and even moving them here. So that kind of that really destroys the whole attack. And Russian troops probably will not be able to do the second repeat of this attack again. So that really will destroy the whole thing. We don't really think that Ukrainian command is capable of such a daring thing, unfortunately. So this is where it's what's happening here on this. It's not really even bridgehead at this point. It's really just expanding a Russian zone of control. So they managed to reach the village of Dovgenke. There is fighting for that village. Then there was yesterday we mentioned there was and we didn't really explain very well. So there was a meeting in English. It's called meeting engagement around the village of Brazhkivka with two groups of tanks from each side, up to 20 units in each. So they didn't. This is kind of tells you there is a total mess there on both sides. They apparently didn't expect each other. There was totally unexpected kind of meeting, basically, between two sides. We don't know exact casualties from that sort of fight. We're sure that each side lost probably up to 5-6 tanks there, but we don't. It's totally speculative. What happened was totally meeting. It also tells you that there is a total mess there. and it's total meat grinder, right? When the troops attack each other, didn't expect each other, so it kind of tells you that it's a chaos, and that the top is losing kind of control because it's so bad and hard. So, but in the end today, Russian troops managed to actually capture that village and move a little bit further, push a little bit further. Also, when Russian troops like suffering heavy equipment casualties, but it's not enough to stop them. Like there's still power there, and I mean you can see three three divisions, and two of them tank divisions. One is mechanized, which is kind of like a half of a tank, half of the tank in terms of number of tanks. So it's very powerful hammer there. And we know that, like for example, 95th Brigade suffering heavy casualties trying to stop us, so we're kind of bleeding, and that's why we say it's a losing sort of losing proposition for Ukraine, because eventually it will be bled, it will bleed dead, 95th and 95th and 91st, and probably there is a tank brigade here. We're just not sure if it's 17th or whatever it is. So this is losing kind of battle over in the long run for Ukraine, unfortunately. And the obviously axis of attack is very clear at this point. This is Barvinkova. That's a key point, and it's actually that will provide the most strategic advantage and the most damage to Ukrainian side if Russian troops capture this town. So that's it for the Izyum situation, which is terrible, like to say the least, for Ukrainian side. So at this point, actually, there is some kind of good news for Ukrainian side, that Russian troops that were attacking west of Donetsk, at this point they're exhausted. They're not even attacking; they're just shelling. They just try to achieve the same thing by just simply shelling Ukrainian troops, and they suffered heavy casualties in terms of manpower, to the point that they are in number lower than the opposing defending Ukrainian troops here. So that's totally at this point not possible. That's why it says how important for Ukraine to hold this. It's excellent defensive positions here, and if they could hold, that would eventually they could basically grind Russian troops here and just kind of bring the whole thing to a stall. So that's why Izyum is so extremely critically important for Ukraine and for Russia, obviously. So let's look at Mariupol, because we had some Russian trolls last night trying to push Russian propaganda, and in terms of they just represented one-sided way. So what happened last night? Ukrainian 501st Battalion surrendered, and it was in this Ilyich steel mill here, which is like numbered by like number 2. What we discussed, that it turns out that there is Ukrainian troops here. So it was 501st Battalion there, was between 260 to 270 servicemen that surrendered there. Our logic there is that they probably ran out of ammunition. There's not much you can do without ammunition. So there is probably a problem, which kind of tells us that even that helicopter bridge is not enough for to supply enough ammunition for the amount of the troops that Ukraine has, and giving the intensity of the fight. So at this point, Ukraine doesn't control this, so the perimeter is lower now, as you can see. From what we know here, there's not terribly much movement in terms of in the center, like just very small movements, and the same here as well. It's apparently this this block right before the Azovstal is super difficult for Russian troops to overcome. We don't know details why. Maybe they are just simply exhausted, but they really not making much progress there. They're still trying to capture this seaport, and there's really not much like news here, and not really much success or progress for Russian side, except with exception of this, which is obviously a clear win for the Russian side. So let's quickly look here in the south, the same story. This continuing fighting about this village of Alexandrivka that doesn't make honestly sense to us, but I guess the both sides just need to find where to fight, and really doesn't make any kind of sense. That's it for today. So it was really short. Hopefully, we'll have more information tomorrow. Thanks again for watching. Bye bye.